The Galactic Council chamber floated in the void between star systems, a massive structure of crystalline walls and gravity wells that held representatives from 47 civilizations. Today they gathered to decide the fate of a species that had recently discovered faster-than-light travel, humanity. Ambassador Zekthor of the Vraxian Empire stood at the central podium, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of authority. His scales shimmered under the chamber's artificial light as he addressed the assembly. Esteemed members of the council, Zekthor began, his voice amplified across the vast chamber. We gather to vote on humanity's application to join our collective. I have studied these creatures extensively. They are violent, divided, and technologically primitive. Their home world, Earth, is scarred by centuries of warfare. They have only just achieved rudimentary FTL capability, yet they dare to seek membership among civilizations millions of years older. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Kaleshire representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, pulsed with approval. The insectoid Threx queen clicked her mandibles in what her species considered laughter. They are dangerous, continued Zekthor. In the mere 200 years since their industrial revolution, they have nearly destroyed their own planet 3 times. They wage war over resources, ideology, and invisible lines they draw on maps. They are not ready for the responsibility that comes with galactic citizenship. High Chancellor Mora of the Elysian Collective rose from her seat. Her species, tall and elegant with skin that shifted colors like oil on water, had led the council for 3,000 years. The Vraxian ambassador makes compelling points. However, we must also consider the regulations. Humanity has achieved FTL travel. By our own laws they must be acknowledged. Acknowledged, yes, Zekthor replied sharply. But not welcomed. I propose we grant them restricted status. They may travel within their own star system but venture no further. They are to be quarantined until they prove themselves worthy, if they ever do. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species argued for mercy, others for complete isolation. The Dravian Concord, a military alliance of 6 warrior races, demanded humanity be monitored constantly. The peaceful collective of harmonious beings suggested a probationary period of 1,000 years. Meanwhile, 3 billion light-years away, Captain Sarah Chin stood on the bridge of the ESS Prometheus, humanity's first diplomatic vessel. The ship hung in neutral space, awaiting the Council's decision. Sarah's crew of 45 represented Earth's best: scientists, soldiers, diplomats, engineers. "Captain," said Lieutenant Marcus Webb, the ship's communications officer. "We're receiving the transmission now." The view screen flickered to life, showing Chancellor Mora's face. Her expression was unreadable, but Sarah had learned to read alien body language during her 6 months of preparation. "Captain Chin," Mora said formally, "the Galactic Council has reached its decision regarding humanity's application for membership." The vote was unanimous. Sarah's heart sank. Unanimous was never good. Earth and its colonies are hereby granted restricted status. You are forbidden from traveling beyond your solar system for a probationary period of 500 Earth years. During this time, the Council will monitor your development. Any violation of this restriction will be considered an act of war against the entire galactic community. 500 years? Sarah couldn't hide her shock. "Chancellor, with respect, that's 20 generations. Our children's children will never see the stars." "The decision is final," Mora replied coldly. "The Council has also decided to establish monitoring stations around your system. Any ship attempting to leave will be disabled or destroyed. We suggest you use this time to evolve beyond your violent nature." Transmission ends. The screen went black. Sarah stood motionless for a long moment. Her crew waited, looking to her for guidance. Finally, she turned to them, her jaw set with determination. "Set course for Earth," she said quietly. "Maximum speed." "Captain?" Webb asked. "What are we going to tell them back home?" Sarah looked out at the stars, those countless distant suns that humanity would now be forbidden from reaching. "The truth. That the galaxy thinks we're too dangerous, too primitive, too violent to be trusted among civilized species." "And then what?" asked Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the ship's chief scientist. A thin smile crossed Sarah's face, one that didn't reach her eyes. "Then we show them exactly why they should have been afraid. Not because we're violent, but because we're human. And humans don't accept cages well." The Prometheus turned toward home, carrying news that would unite humanity in ways the Council could never have predicted. The vote against Earth was unanimous. Their regret would be equally shared. 6 months after the Council's decision, The blockade was complete. 73 alien warships surrounded the Sol system in a perfect sphere, their weapons pointed inward. Each vessel belonged to a different council species, a symbol of unified galactic authority. On Earth, the response had been explosive. Riots broke out in major cities. Governments that had finally unified to reach the stars now faced populations demanding answers. How dare these aliens imprison humanity in their own home? But in the underground facilities beneath Colorado, Geneva, and Beijing, a different reaction was taking shape. Director James Okonkwo stood in the war room of the United Earth Defense Initiative, a program that officially didn't exist. The walls displayed holographic projections of the blockade, constantly updating with real-time intelligence data. They made a mistake, Okonkwo said to the assembled group of Earth's greatest military and scientific minds. They think the blockade keeps us in. They don't realize it keeps them close. General Linda Zhang of the Pacific Alliance leaned forward. You're suggesting we study them? I'm suggesting we do what humanity has always done when faced with a superior enemy, Okonkwo replied. We learn. We adapt. We overcome. These ships have been sitting in our system for half a year, broadcasting signals, running patrol patterns, rotating crews. Every single transmission is data. Every movement is information. Dr. Rajesh Kumar, Earth's leading AI researcher, nodded enthusiastically. We've already identified 17 different communication frequencies. Their encryption is sophisticated but not unbreakable. Given time. We don't have time, interrupted Admiral Elena Volkov. 500 years sounds long, but technology advances exponentially. In 50 years they'll reassess. If we haven't evolved by their standards, what then? Another 500? Permanent quarantine? Extermination. The room fell silent. Everyone knew she was right. Captain Sarah Chin, now promoted to Commodore and head of the First Contact Division, stood up. Then we accelerate. For 500 years, humanity survived because we adapted faster than anything else on Earth. We turned wolves into dogs, wild grass into wheat, and caves into cities. We didn't do it by being the strongest or the fastest. We did it by being the smartest. The aliens have a 5 million-year head start, someone objected. No, Sarah countered. They have 5 million years of comfort. 5 million years of peace and stability and established systems. When was the last time any of them had to innovate to survive? Their ships are powerful, yes, but they're standardized. Their technology is advanced, but it's stagnant. We've seen the same ship designs and records from 3,000 years ago. Okonkwo smiled. Continue. Humans innovate through competition and necessity. Every nation on Earth spent the last 500 years trying to outthink, outbuild, and outfight each other. We've had 3 near-extinction events and came back stronger each time. Our entire civilization is built on the concept of iterative improvement. We're not just one species, we're thousands of cultures, billions of minds, all approaching problems from different angles. She pulled up a hologram of a Vraxian destroyer. This ship is 10 kilometers long. It has enough firepower to glass a planet. Its shields can withstand a nuclear blast. But it's also predictable. It follows the same patrol pattern every 48 hours. Its crew rotates on a precise schedule. Its weakness isn't in its armor or weapons, it's in its thinking. Dr. Tanaka stood up, excitement in her eyes. You're talking about psychological warfare. I'm talking about showing them that humanity's danger isn't in our violence, Sarah said. It's in our creativity, our unpredictability, our refusal to accept defeat. Okonkwo addressed the room. Here's the plan. Phase 1, we learn everything about our captors. Their technology, their culture, their weaknesses. We do it quietly, using nothing that would alert their sensors. Phase 2, we build. Not weapons, not yet. We build the foundation of technologies they've never imagined because they never needed to. Phase 3, we wait for the perfect moment, and then we remind the galaxy why humans became Earth's apex species. And if they discover what we're doing? General Zhang asked. Then we accelerate to Phase 3 early, Okonkwo replied grimly. But I don't think they will. They've already dismissed us. To them, we're prisoners serving our sentence, children in timeout. They'll watch us, certainly, but they won't expect us to be planning. That's their fatal mistake. They think they understand humanity based on our past. They don't realize that our past is just practice for our future. The meeting ended with new purpose. Across Earth, the brightest minds began their work. Not with anger or hatred, but with the cold, calculated determination that had carried humanity from the caves to the stars. The aliens had built a cage around humanity's solar system. They didn't realize they'd locked themselves in with the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. Not because humans were violent but because they were innovative beyond measure. The countdown had begun. 500 years was the sentence. Humanity would be free in 50. 20 years into the quarantine, the galaxy had forgotten about humanity. The Council moved on to other matters. Trade disputes between the Kael'shir and Threx, territorial negotiations in the Andromeda sector, the discovery of new pre-FTL civilizations. Earth was a closed case, a problem solved. But in the Sol system, everything had changed. Commander David Osei floated in zero gravity aboard the ESS Newton, a research vessel that appeared on no official registry. Around him, scientists worked in silence, their faces illuminated by holographic displays showing data that would revolutionize warfare. "Commander," called out Dr. Lisa Park, "we have a breakthrough on Project Whisper." David pushed off toward her station, moving with the practiced ease of someone who'd spent 2 decades in space. The blockade had forced humanity to master their own system completely. Every asteroid, every moon, every planet had been surveyed, mined, and utilized. The aliens watched Earth itself closely, but the outer system had become humanity's laboratory. "Show me," David said. Lisa pulled up the data. "We've successfully tested quantum entanglement communication with zero detectable signature. The aliens are still using tachyon-based FTL comms, which leave traces in subspace. Ours is completely invisible." David felt his pulse quicken. "Range? We tested it successfully between here and the station near Neptune. That's 4 light hours. Theoretically, it should work across any distance." "Theoretically? We need to test it outside the system to be sure," Lisa admitted. "But based on the physics—" "Get me Director Okonkwo," David interrupted. Immediately. Within hours, Okonkwo's hologram materialized in the Newton's conference room, joining representatives from every branch of humanity's secret programs. They called themselves the Prometheus Initiative, named after humanity's first diplomatic ship and the Greek titan who stole fire from the gods. "Confirm your findings," Okonkwo said without preamble. Dr. Park presented her data. Around the virtual table, expressions shifted from skepticism to wonder to excitement. "If this works," said Admiral Volkov, now elderly but still sharp, "we can coordinate fleet movements without the enemy ever knowing. But more importantly, we can communicate with scout ships beyond the blockade," finished General Zhang's successor, General Marcus Torres. "Ships they don't know exist." Okonkwo nodded slowly. 20 years ago we launched the Cedars. 12 automated vessels disguised as asteroids, pushed out of the system by natural, gravitational perturbations from Jupiter. Each one carried human embryos in stasis, AI caretakers, and manufacturing facilities. The aliens never noticed them leaving because they looked like space debris, and they were moving too slowly to matter. The room fell silent. This was need-to-know information, and most hadn't known. "The nearest Cedar should be reaching Proxima Centauri within a year," Okonkwo continued. "Others are headed to systems within 20 light-years. Each one will establish a hidden human colony. If we can communicate with them using Dr. Park's technology, we can coordinate a breakout that the Council will never see coming." "It's not enough," David objected. "Even with secret colonies, we're still outnumbered 1,000,000,000 to 1. The Council has tens of thousands of worlds, millions of ships. We need an equalizer." "We have one," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see an elderly Asian woman enter the hologram space. Dr. Yuki Tanaka had aged gracefully, her hair now silver, but her eyes still burned with fierce intelligence. "Project Genesis is complete," she announced. "We've successfully created a true quantum AI, not limited by processing speed or storage capacity. It exists in a quantum superposition state, calculating all possible outcomes simultaneously." "That's theoretically impossible," someone objected. "So was faster-than-light travel until someone did it," Dr. Tanaka replied. "The Council's AI is sophisticated, but it's classical, limited by the speed of light and sequential processing. Ours exists outside normal time. It can predict enemy movements before they happen, design technologies on demand, and coordinate battle strategies across unlimited distances simultaneously." "You've created a god," David whispered. "No," Dr. Tanaka corrected. "We've created a tool. It has no desires, no ambitions. It exists to serve humanity's survival. We call it Odin, Omniscient Defense Integration Network." Okonkwo stood, his aged face showing satisfaction. 20 years ago the Council called us primitive. They saw our violence and missed our potential. They knew we made war but didn't understand why we won them. Humans don't win through superior strength. We win through superior adaptation. Every defeat teaches us. Every enemy makes us stronger. He gestured to the star map. The Council has had peace for millions of years. They've forgotten that peace makes you soft. Humanity has never known true peace. We've been fighting for survival since we climbed down from the trees. And now they've given us a reason to unite all that competitive energy toward a single goal. When do we move? General Torres asked. 30 years, Okonkwo replied. That gives our colonies time to establish, Odin time to plan, and our weapons programs time to complete. The blockade thinks it's containing us. It's actually been protecting them from seeing what we're becoming. The invisible war continued. The aliens watched Earth and saw obedient prisoners. They didn't see the revolution being born in the darkness beyond their sight. Year 50 of the quarantine. Captain Gene Park stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance, one of humanity's new warships built entirely in the asteroid belt. From the outside it looked like a mining vessel, ugly, utilitarian, and harmless. Inside it was something the galaxy had never seen. All stations report ready, announced Lieutenant Sarah Chin Jr., daughter of the now legendary Commodore Chin. Odin is online. Quantum comms established with all fleet elements. Gene studied the tactical display. 12 human colonies now existed beyond the blockade, each one a fully industrialized world with populations in the millions. The seeders had worked perfectly, and the Council remained oblivious. Humanity had spread like a virus through the immune system of a patient who didn't know they were sick. Status of the blockade? Gene asked. Same as always, Captain. Predictable patrol patterns, standard readiness, no indication they suspect anything. The Vraxian destroyer in Sector 7 just rotated crews. Admiral Zekthor himself is aboard, by the way. Gene smiled coldly. Zekthor, the architect of humanity's imprisonment, had come to personally inspect the cage. How fitting. Odin, probability assessment. The quantum AI responded instantly, its voice neither male nor female, somehow both and neither. Current probability of mission success, 94.6%. Acceptable casualty rates, within parameters. Recommendation, proceed with Operation Breakout. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. 50 years ago, humanity had been one species on one world. Now they were 12 colonies spread across 20 light-years, with technologies the Council didn't know existed. The blockade surrounded an empty cage. The lion had already escaped. Send the message to Director Chin, Gene commanded. Sarah Chin had succeeded Okonkwo as head of the Prometheus Initiative 3 years prior. Tell her we're ready. On Earth, in the same war room where the initiative had been born, Sarah Chin Sr., now an elderly woman but still sharp as a blade, stood before the Council of Humanity. Every nation, every colony, every ship had representation. My friends, she began, 50 years ago the Galactic Council voted unanimously to imprison us. They called us violent, primitive, unworthy. They gave us 500 years to evolve. We're going to show them what human evolution really looks like. She pressed a button. Across the Sol system, hidden facilities powered up. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids came online. Ships that had pretended to be mining vessels revealed their true nature. We could destroy the blockade, Sarah continued. Odin has calculated 17,000 scenarios where we eliminate every alien ship in our system within 40 minutes. But that's not the message we want to send. We're not the violent species they think we are. We're something far more dangerous. We're the species that refuses to surrender. On the Vraxian destroyer Inevitable Justice, Admiral Zekthor sat in his command chair, reviewing reports. 50 years of monitoring humanity had been tedious. The creatures seemed content with their prison, developing their solar system but showing no signs of rebellion. Perhaps they had finally accepted their place. An alert chimed. Then another. Then dozens. Admiral, his sensor officer called out. I'm detecting massive power surges throughout the Sol system. Hundreds of objects we classified as asteroids they're moving, sir. Under power. Zekthor sat forward. Explain. They're ships, sir. The humans have built ships. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. They're surrounding our blockade force. Before Zekthor could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered. A human face appeared, an elderly woman with gray hair and eyes that burned with quiet triumph. Admiral Zekthor, Sarah Chin said. I'm Commodore Sarah Chin of United Earth. We met 50 years ago, though you probably don't remember me. I was the captain who brought you news of humanity's first steps into the galaxy. You sent me home with a sentence, 500 years in prison. You are in violation of council law, Zekthor said, recovering his composure. Stand down immediately or we will open fire. Sarah smiled. Will you? Odin, show them. The tactical displays on every council ship suddenly showed something impossible. Their weapons were locked out. Their engines were offline. Their shields were down. They were completely defenseless. How? Zekthor whispered. 50 years, Sarah replied. You gave us 50 years to think, to plan, to evolve. You thought you were protecting the galaxy from us. You were actually protecting yourselves from seeing what we were becoming. Your blockade ships run on standardized systems. We've had 50 years to study them, understand them, and learn to control them. Every ship in your blockade is now operating under human authority. This is an act of war. Zekthor shouted. No, Sarah corrected. This is a declaration of independence. We could destroy your fleet. Odin could eliminate every ship here in minutes. But we won't. Instead, you're going to deliver a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them humanity is done asking for permission. We're not your prisoners, your subjects, or your children. We're your equals, whether you accept it or not. The Council will send an armada, Zekthor warned. Sarah's smile widened. Let them come. We'll be waiting. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaotic. Representatives from 47 civilizations shouted over each other, their translators barely keeping up. Holograms flickered as species across the galaxy demanded explanations. Chancellor Mora, now ancient even by her species standards, stood at the central podium. Her skin no longer shifted colors, it had settled into a pale gray that signified stress. Order, she commanded. We will have order. The chamber gradually quieted. Admiral Zekthor stood in the center, having been summoned to explain his failure. His forearms hung limp in shame. You had one task, said Representative Kilks of the Threx Collective, her mandibles clicking angrily. Contain the humans. Instead, you allowed them to seize control of your entire fleet without firing a single shot. Explain how this is possible. They're more advanced than we believed, Zekthor admitted. Their technology has exceeded ours in several critical areas. Their quantum computers, their AI, their understanding of our systems, it's as if they've had thousands of years to study us instead of 50. Impossible, declared the Dravian war chief. They were primitives. They'd barely achieved FTL when we quarantined them. We're primitives, Zekthor emphasized. We made a critical error. We judged them based on their technology, not their potential. Humans advance exponentially. They don't improve gradually, they leap forward in sudden bursts of innovation. Then we destroy them, the war chief said simply, before they become a greater threat. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Several species called for immediate military action. Chancellor Mora raised her hand for silence. A military response may be exactly what they expect. The humans have had 50 years to prepare for our retaliation. If they were confident enough to seize our blockade, they must believe they can defend against whatever we send. Then what do you propose? Asked Representative Ninal of the Peaceful Collective. We cannot allow this challenge to stand. If humanity succeeds in defying council authority, other species may follow. I propose we negotiate, Mora said. The chamber erupted. Negotiate? With the prisoners? With the species they deemed unworthy? We underestimated them once, Mora continued when order was restored. I will not make that mistake again. The humans have proven themselves capable of strategic thinking that rivals our oldest civilizations. They've demonstrated technological advancement that suggests they may soon match or exceed our capabilities. And most importantly, they've shown restraint. They could have destroyed our blockade, but they chose not to. That suggests they want coexistence, not war. It suggests weakness, the war chief countered. They know they cannot win a full conflict with the council. Can they not? Mora asked quietly. You're all assuming we know the full extent of their capabilities. We don't. They hid colonies, built fleets, and developed technologies we never detected. What else are they hiding? What other surprises wait for us? In the Prometheus Initiative headquarters on Earth, Director Sarah Chen watched the council debate through intelligence channels that shouldn't exist. Odin had infiltrated council networks the same way it had taken control of the blockade, by understanding systems better than those who built them. They're divided, observed General Torres. Half want war, half want negotiation. Exactly as Odin predicted, Sarah replied. Humans fight when united. The council debates. That's their weakness. They've never faced an enemy that forced them to move quickly. Ma'am, Lieutenant Chin reported. Odin is detecting fleet movements. The Dravian Concord is mobilizing a battle group. 300 warships heading towards Seoul. Time to intercept? 48 hours. Sarah considered. 300 warships was a significant force, but not the full Council armada. Odin, assessment? The Dravian deployment is a probe, Odin replied. They want to test our defensive capabilities before committing to full-scale war. Recommendation: demonstrate overwhelming superiority without destroying the Dravian fleet. Explain. Destroying them makes us the aggressors and unites the Council against us. Defeating them without casualties makes us look powerful but reasonable. It leaves room for negotiation while establishing respect. Sarah smiled. This was why Odin was invaluable. It understood not just tactics but psychology. Prepare Operation Lighthouse. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has become. Back in the council chamber, Chancellor Mora was still arguing for negotiation when alarms began sounding. Representatives checked their data feeds, and expressions of shock rippled across species. Report. Mora demanded. Chancellor, her aide said, voice shaking, we're receiving a transmission. It's broadcasting on every frequency, to every council world simultaneously. That's impossible. The bandwidth alone. It's the humans, Chancellor. They're addressing the galaxy. On screens across 47 different worlds and space stations, on ships, and in homes of trillions of beings, Sarah Chen's face appeared. Behind her stood representatives of 12 human colonies, all unified under one flag, the blue world of Earth surrounded by stars. People of the Galactic Council, Sarah began, her voice translated instantly into every known language. We are humanity. 50 years ago, you voted to imprison us, calling us too violent and primitive to join civilized society. Today we prove that you were wrong, not about our nature but about what that nature represents. The transmission showed human achievements. Cities on Mars, orbital habitats around Jupiter, fusion plants powering civilizations, peaceful colonies working together across light years. You saw our conflicts and called us violent. We see them differently, as the growing pains of a species learning to unite. You saw our division and called it weakness. We see diversity of thought that drives innovation. You saw our short history and called us primitive. We see efficiency. We've accomplished in 2 centuries what took you millions of years. The Dravian battle group emerged from FTL at the edge of the Sol system exactly when Odin predicted. 300 warships, each one a masterpiece of military engineering, representing the most feared warrior species in the Council. Warchief Krell stood on the bridge of his flagship, Eternal Conquest, studying the tactical display. Analysis, Krell commanded. We detect approximately 2,000 human vessels, his tactical officer reported. Most appear to be converted civilian ships. Their formations are unusual. Unusual how? They're not arranged defensively, sir. They're scattered throughout the system in what appears to be random positions. Krell felt his battle spines bristle with anticipation. Either the humans were fools or this was a trap. His instincts, honed through 1,000 battles, suggested the latter. Send a warning, Krell ordered. Standard ultimatum. Surrender or be destroyed. Before his communications officer could comply, every screen on every Dravian ship went dark. Then they flickered back to life, showing the same elderly human woman who'd addressed the galaxy. Warchief Krell, Sarah Chin said. Welcome to the Sol system. I'm disappointed the Council chose to send warriors instead of diplomats, but I understand. You need to see what humanity has become before you can accept us as equals. Surrender your vessels immediately, Krell responded. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Sarah smiled. Odin, show them. The tactical displays changed. Every Dravian officer saw the same thing, and a collective gasp went through 300 ships. The random positions of human vessels weren't random at all. They formed a perfect 3-dimensional web of overlapping fire zones. More importantly, each human ship was positioned at a point where Dravian weapons would hit other Dravian ships if they fired. Your formation is designed to make us shoot each other, Krell said, impressed despite himself. That's just the beginning, Sarah replied. Odin, Phase 2. Space itself seemed to shimmer. The stars disappeared, replaced by what looked like solid walls of energy surrounding the Dravian fleet. Krell's sensors screamed warnings. They were trapped in a box of gravity wells, each one strong enough to tear a ship apart. Quantum-manipulated gravity fields, Sarah explained. We can create artificial black holes, collapse them, and redirect their energy. Your shields can't stop gravity, War Chief. If we wanted, we could compress your entire fleet into a singularity the size of a marble. Krell's warriors were looking to him for orders. He saw fear in their eyes, something he'd never seen before. Dravians didn't fear death. They feared helplessness. But you won't, Krell said, understanding dawning. If you wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. Correct, Sarah confirmed. Despite what the Council believes, humanity doesn't seek war. We seek respect. You came here to test us to see if we were a real threat. Now you know. The question is, what will you tell the Council? Krell made a decision that would change galactic history. Tactical stand down. All ships, defensive posture only. Communications, open a direct channel to the Council. Minutes later, Chancellor Mora watched in disbelief as War Chief Krell delivered his report from the middle of a human trap. Chancellor, Krell said, his voice carrying the weight of experience, I have engaged the human fleet. I am here to report that the Dravian Concord cannot defeat humanity in their home system. Perhaps not anywhere. Explain yourself, Mora demanded. They have weapons we cannot counter. More importantly, they have an understanding of warfare that exceeds our own. They positioned their inferior ships to use our strength against us. They created weapons from pure physics, things we never imagined possible. They predicted our arrival time, our formations, our tactics. And most importantly, they chose not to destroy us when they could have done so easily. Are you suggesting surrender? Asked the Dravian Council representative, horrified. I'm suggesting respect, Krell replied. The Council voted to quarantine humanity because we feared their violence. But true warriors understand something the Council has forgotten. Violence without wisdom is brutality. Wisdom without the capacity for violence is weakness. Humanity has both. They are what the Dravians aspire to be, warriors who choose peace because they are confident in their strength, not because they fear conflict. Sarah Chin appeared on the Council screens again. Chancellor Mora, War Chief Krell speaks wisdom. You have two choices. Continue this path toward war. A war you might win through sheer numbers but at a cost that would devastate the galaxy. Or recognize that humanity has earned the right to be heard. You violated our laws, Mora countered. We violated an unjust imprisonment, Sarah corrected. You had no right to confine us. We achieved FTL travel independently, by your own laws that grants us sovereignty. You chose to ignore your own rules because you feared what you didn't understand. We feared your violence. And you responded with violence, Sarah pointed out. You surrounded our home with warships, threatened our children, and expected us to be grateful for our cage. Chancellor, the galaxy doesn't need protection from humanity. Humanity needs protection from a council that makes decisions based on fear rather than justice. Silence filled the council chamber. Species that had never agreed on anything suddenly faced a question they couldn't avoid. Was Sarah Chin right? I call for a new vote, Chancellor Mora finally said. All in favor of negotiating with humanity as equals rather than prisoners? The vote began. The galaxy held its breath. The vote was not unanimous this time. 28 species voted for negotiation. 15 voted for continued quarantine. 4 abstained. It was enough. 1 month later, a delegation from Earth arrived at the Galactic Council chamber. Sarah Chen, despite her age, had insisted on leading it personally. Alongside her walked representatives of all 12 human colonies, each one carrying the hopes of their worlds. The chamber was different than it had been 50 years ago. This time humans entered as equals, not supplicants. Chancellor Mora met them at the entrance. Commodore Chin. Welcome. Chancellor, Sarah replied. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. We had little choice, Mora said dryly. Your demonstration with the Dravian fleet made quite an impression. They walked together toward the central chamber. That wasn't a threat, Sarah said. It was an introduction. You judged us without knowing us. We simply wanted to show you who we really are. And who are you? Sarah stopped, meeting the Chancellor's eyes. We're survivors. We're innovators. We're the species that turned a death world into a garden, took our tribalism and forged it into unity, and looked at the impossible and called it a challenge. We're human, and that means we never give up. The chamber doors opened. Inside, 47 civilizations waited. Some with curiosity, others with fear, many with respect they hadn't possessed before. Sarah walked to the central podium, the same place where Zekthor had spoken 50 years ago. He was here too, watching from his delegation's seats, his scales now dulled with age. Esteemed members, Sarah began, I stand before you as the representative of humanity, a species you deemed unworthy of joining your collective. You saw our history of war and called us violent. You saw our competitive nature and called it primitive. You saw our rapid development and called it dangerous. But you never asked why we are the way we are. She activated a hologram showing Earth, a blue marble spinning in space. This is our home. A death world by galactic standards. Gravity that crushes. Weather that kills. Predators that hunt. Diseases that ravage. For 3 million years, everything on Earth tried to kill us. We had no venom, no claws, no armor. We were slow, weak, and defenseless. By all logic, we should have gone extinct. The hologram shifted, showing human evolution. But we had something else. We had each other. We formed tribes. We shared knowledge. We invented tools. We turned our greatest weakness, our fragility, into our greatest strength. We learned to adapt faster than anything else could evolve to kill us. Your violence, someone started to object, is a symptom of our diversity, Sarah interrupted. Yes, we fought each other. Thousands of cultures, hundreds of languages, competing philosophies. But that competition drove innovation. Every war taught us something. Every conflict forced us to think differently. You call it violence. We call it accelerated evolution. She gestured to the council members. Look around this chamber. How many of your species achieved space flight through competition? How many of you raced each other to the stars, pushed by the fear that your rivals would get there first? None of you. You developed slowly, peacefully, cooperatively. That's admirable. But it's also why your technology has barely changed in millennia. The chamber stirred, but no one could argue. She was right. Humanity offers the council something you've never had before, perspective from a species that survived by adapting, not by being strong. We've learned to solve impossible problems because failure meant extinction. We've learned to innovate because stagnation meant death. We've learned to unite despite our differences because division meant defeat. Chancellor Morris stood. Beautiful words, Commodore. But words don't erase the fact that you seized control of our blockade fleet. You demonstrated military capabilities that threaten the entire council. Why should we believe you come in peace? Because we're still talking, Sarah replied simply. If humanity wanted war, War Chief Krell's fleet would be debris. If we wanted domination, Odin could have shut down every ship in council space before you knew what was happening. If we wanted revenge for 50 years of imprisonment, this chamber would be our first target. But we're here requesting dialogue, offering partnership. She paused, letting that sink in. The galaxy is stagnant, Chancellor. You know it. When was the last time the Council made a significant technological breakthrough? When was the last time you discovered something that fundamentally changed civilization? You've been coasting on ancient achievements for so long that you've forgotten what progress feels like. And humanity will provide this progress? Asked Representative 9L skeptically. Humanity will be the catalyst, Sarah corrected. We don't have all the answers. But we ask questions you stopped asking millions of years ago. We challenge assumptions you consider absolute. We look at impossible problems and refuse to accept that answer. She pulled up data. In 50 years of quarantine, humanity developed quantum AI, gravity manipulation, faster-than-light communications with zero detectable signature, antimatter containment that's 99% efficient, and medical technology that's extended our lifespan by 40 years. 50 years. Now imagine what we could do with access to your resources, your knowledge, your perspective. Or imagine what you could do to us, someone muttered. Sarah heard it anyway. You're afraid of us. I understand. You should be afraid, not because we're violent but because we represent change. Change is terrifying when you've been comfortable for millions of years. But change is also inevitable. The universe doesn't reward stagnation. It rewards adaptation. She looked directly at Zekthor. Ambassador, you were right about one thing 50 years ago. Humanity is dangerous. But not in the way you thought. We're dangerous to complacency. We're dangerous to the status quo. We're dangerous to the idea that the galaxy has reached its final form and nothing needs to improve. Zekthor slowly stood, his forearms gesturing respect. Commodore Chin, I judged your species based on limited data and personal fear. I convinced this council to imprison you because I could not imagine a place for humans in our ordered galaxy. I was wrong. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Avraxian admitting error was unprecedented. The humans taught me something our species forgot long ago, Zekthor continued. That adversity creates strength. That challenge creates innovation. That competition creates excellence. We gave them 50 years to prove themselves worthy. They used those 50 years to become what we should have been, a species that never stops growing. He turned to the council. I vote to grant humanity full membership status, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. Not because they've earned forgiveness but because they've earned respect. Chancellor Mora watched the chamber carefully. She could feel the shift in mood. Fear was giving way to curiosity. Skepticism was giving way to possibility. The council will vote, Mora announced. All in favor of granting humanity full membership in the Galactic Council? The votes came in faster this time. 35 in favor. 8 against. 4 abstained. Sarah felt tears in her eyes but refused to let them fall. Not yet. By the authority vested in me as High Chancellor, Mora said formally, I welcome humanity to the Galactic Council as full members. May this be the beginning of a new era for all civilizations. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions, some celebrating, others concerned, all knowing that nothing would ever be the same. Sarah returned to her delegation where her daughter and colleagues waited. We did it, Lieutenant Chin whispered. No, Sarah replied, looking back at the council chamber. We started it. The real work begins now. Epilogue. 10 years later, the galaxy was transformed. Human innovations had sparked a renaissance across council space. Quantum computing had revolutionized medicine. Gravity manipulation had made interstellar travel faster and safer. New approaches to old problems had yielded solutions that benefited everyone. But more importantly, humanity had rekindled something the galaxy had lost: ambition. Young species now looked at the stars and dreamed of reaching them. Established civilizations began competing again, pushing themselves to innovate. The Council, once a static bureaucracy, had become a dynamic forum for sharing ideas. Sarah Chin, now 120 years old thanks to human medical advances, stood on a balcony overlooking New Geneva, Earth's capital. Behind her, a party celebrated the 10th anniversary of humanity's acceptance into the Council. Captain Jean Park joined her, carrying 2 glasses of champagne. We're trending toward becoming the most influential species in Council space, he said. The predictions say within 20 years, human technology will be the standard across the galaxy. That's not what we wanted, Sarah replied, accepting the glass. Isn't it? We wanted partnership, not dominance. The Council was right to be afraid of us, not because we're violent but because we're infectious. Our way of thinking spreads like a virus. If we're not careful, we'll replace their stagnation with our chaos. Jean smiled. Maybe the galaxy needs a little chaos. Maybe, Sarah agreed. Or maybe we need to learn from them too. They have something we lack: patience, stability, the wisdom that comes from millions of years of experience. The perfect civilization isn't human or alien. It's both. She raised her glass to the stars. The Council voted unanimously against us 50 years ago. They regretted it universally. Now we have the chance to prove that we deserve their faith, not by dominating them but by growing together. To growth, Jean toasted. To growth, Sarah echoed. Across the galaxy, on worlds humans had never seen and in languages they were still learning, similar toasts were being made. The galaxy had been sleeping for millions of years. Humanity had been the alarm clock no one wanted but everyone needed. The vote had been unanimous against Earth. The regret had become universal. But from that regret, something beautiful had been born, a galaxy that remembered how to dream. And humanity, the species too dangerous to trust and too valuable to ignore, had finally come home to the stars where they belonged.